Let's talk a bit about the cosine rule now. And in this video, once we go through the cosine rule, it's going to be the same stuff like the sine rule, in the sense that you use it for a non-right angle triangle. And you have different criteria here now to work with. So for example, let's state the cosine rule before we get going. So a square is equal to b square plus c square minus 2bc cosine a. Pretty lengthy, a little bit of a mouthful, but it's quite easy to remember, and the letters are completely interchangeable, similar to the sine rule. If I'm finding the side A, which is little a there, notice we started with A, we ended with big A, which is angle A. I can start this with anything I want. Notice B, C are in there. So I can start with B square if I want, and then have A square and C square, A, C, and then finish with B, and so on. So it's completely interchangeable. The question now is, when do you use the cosine rule? Well, you use it a couple of occasions. If you have all three sides of the triangle known, and you are trying to find any missing angle in the shape, or if you know two sides and the angle between them. So this is important. Go back to the sine rule and double check when do you use the sine rule. Many times in an exam question, they will not tell you when you're using it or when you're using whatever. They will just give you a question. You need to know which one you're going to use to solve that question. So this is when we use the cosine rule. Let's look at the problem. Right, so here we go. So we've been given a triangle here, and just judging from what we've been given two sides, and the angle between those two sides, we need to find that missing side there. I hope you've written down the cosine rule. I'm just going to jump straight into it because this is the rule that you'll need to use for this question. A square is equal to 9 square plus 8 square minus 2 times 9 times 8 cosine the angle between 62. Make sure your calculator is in degrees for this. Now this is a simple job. Literally just plug all of this stuff here into your calculator and press the equal sign. So this gives us 77.4. Obviously, if you pay attention here, you notice A is squared. So in order to find A, we'll need to square root that answer. So A is equal to the square root of 77.4. Because it's the length of the side of a triangle, we want the positive version of that square root, which is 8.8 centimeters. So that was pretty straightforward. Nice and easy question to get us started. Now let's move on to another problem. Now in this problem, it fits the bill for the second rule, or the first rule I think I gave, in that we've been given all three sides here. So all three sides have been given. That's 7, that's 9, and that's 11. We need to find that missing angle, which is P, just on the end here. Now this is going to take a little bit of doing, but once I show you this once, all you need to do is just remember how we got it, or just remember what it is. So the cosine rule says that I'll start first of all, obviously, because this side matches with the angle, I'm going to start with that side. Okay, so 9 square is equal to 7 square plus 11 square minus 2 times 7 times 11 cosine, let's call that P over there. Now, I know that I'm going to be cracking on with this in a minute. However, it might be a good idea for you to know how to rearrange it into something that you can just use in your calculation. Or once I go through it, you can pretty much just ignore it after if you want to. Let's go back to what we had before. A square is equal to b square plus c square minus 2bc cosine angle A. Let's say we are finding angle A. We need to rearrange this whole thing to make this the subject. So what we'll end up with is simply this. I will take these and bring them over first of all. So what I'll end up with is a square minus b square minus c square is equal to minus 2bc cosine A. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this minus 2bc and bring it there. So I'll have to divide this time because it's multiplying by cos A. So once I bring that over, what I'll end up with is minus 2bc underneath cosine A. Now what will happen is this minus will interact with everything up there, thereby giving me, it's always better to get rid of the minuses, b square plus c square minus a square all over 2bc is equal to cosine A. Now, long story short, what you really should be doing is memorizing that. And it's not difficult to remember because, again, just like how I showed it to you here, you started with A, you end with A and everything else in the middle. This does the same similar thing. It's got cos A here. Just remember to minus that out and everything else stayed the same. You still got your plus b square c square divided by 2bc there. All right, so if we apply it then to this problem here, it should really just take us to a point where we can just do this and then do our cos inverse and we're done. Okay, not everyone can see it that way, but that's fine. You can still work it out your own way. Like I can work from here, which is what I will do because I believe that quite a lot of people would prefer to just work from this point onwards. So let's take this down here and crack on with it. So we can start working some things out. So we can say that 9 square is 81 and that equals 2. Yep, so you just work, first of all, work out that bit there. So that's going to work out to 170. Take away. Now you do the this other bit here, 154 cos p. Now somebody is going to make the mistake by subtracting these two first to get 16, and you'll be wrong. Don't ever do that because this is combined with the cos p. You can't multiply that and then subtract it from here. So just this bit here is 170 and just that bit there is 154. Okay, now it's a quick matter of just rearranging what we've got to find our answer. So let's make a little bit more space here and then let's get going. So the first job I'm going to do is I will bring this to the other side and then I'll divide by that minus 154. So once I bring that over, I get 81 take away 170 is equal to minus 154 cos p. And then once I calculate that out, I'll end up with two negative numbers. So let's first of all do that 170 and the 80. So that becomes minus 89. I divide that by minus 154 cos p. Again, I need to find p, so I will cos inverse that answer. So p then works out to be, I do my cos inverse of 89 over 154, and that works out to be 54.7 degrees. Okay, and then that is finished. If you wanted to, you could have just gone straight for using this and realize you'll end up with the same answer. So for those people who need to see that, I'll just do it on the side over here as an aside or as an extra. Let's link it back to the question first though before somebody gets confused. So let's make sure we can have that triangle in view. And again, since I want to find this angle, that will be the number that goes on the end. It doesn't matter the order you put these other two in, but that 9 is what will end up on the end here. So let's just jot that down real quick. So we're going to say that cos of angle P is equal to 7 square plus 11 square minus 9 square, all divided by 2 times 7 times 11. Okay, just remember that that's the way we're going to go with that. All right, good, that's fine. Let's take this towards the finish now. and see what we'll end up with. So cos P is going to be equal to, that works out to be 89 over 154. And the minute you get that, you realize that that's exactly what we had over here. So the answer is going to be exactly the same to say that P is 54.7 degrees. Okay, so that's basically it. That's how you use the cosine rule. Now, for some people, I would suggest, that's certainly what I did. I memorized that so that it was easy to just go straight here. Or if you don't want to, then you can, if you want to, go back to the top here and just work straight down that way. All right, let's do a quick problem solving question. All right, so here's the problem solving question we're going to look at. The diagram shows a port P. That's the port P there. And two buoys, A and B there. The buoy A is at a distance of 15 kilometers on a bearing of 0 to 0 degrees from port P. The buoy B, 20 kilometers and a bearing of 310 degrees from P. Calculate the distance between A and B. So I should probably do that in a different color just to highlight the fact that our main goal is to find that distance. And give your answer in kilometers and to 3 significant figures. Okay. Now, I decided to do a bearing problem on this one because I thought, you know, this is one area that lots of people really struggle. They struggle with bearings. So let's have a quick look at the bearing question. Now, all bearings, as you might know, need to start from a north line and go in a clockwise direction. Now, according to this question here, when you look at the buoy A, it's 15 kilometers, but it's on a bearing of 20 degrees or 0 to 0 degrees, as we say. So from the north line, 0 to 0, if you are not sure what I am talking about, you probably need to watch my video on bearings, okay? So that's our 0 to 0 degrees there for that bearing. So that's that angle. It also says here that the buoy B is a distance of 20 on a bearing of 310 degrees. So in other words, yeah, let's stick with the same color. In other words, you start at the north line and this whole distance all the way around here is 310 degrees. Now, in order for me to find the length AB, I'm already looking at a non-right angle triangle with two sides known and possibly the angle between. And I say possibly because I need to go and find it. Now, what we know already, that's 20. If I know what this little piece is here, I can add it to 20 and then I've got the angle between. But I can find that little piece because from this all the way around there is 310 degrees. I know in a full circle is 360 degrees, which means that this angle must be 50 degrees there if you take that away from 360. Which means that the whole angle between it's 70 degrees. Now that I've got that, I can now go ahead and use my cosine rule just as I normally would to solve this question. So, start my cosine rule. I will say AB square. Notice I'm not stating it. We already know what it is, so just get on with the job. Is 15 square plus 20 square minus 2 times 15 times 20 cosine of the angle between, which is 70 degrees. That works out to be 419 degrees after you've put that in your calculator. In order to find AB now, I will square root that answer, taking the positive value of it, and that works out to be 20.5 kilometers. The question says that they want it in kilometers, which we have done, and they wanted the 3 significant figures, which we have done there. And that's it, guys. That is the cosine rule for you. Again, I will reiterate, if you really struggled with what I was doing here in terms of bearings, you might want to check my video out on bearings. But that's the cosine rule. Hope you've learned something from this. Try and learn the cosine rule. Make sure you know when to use it, how to use it after you've compared it with the sine rule. All right, that's it for now.